This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English.
So hello and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. So as everybody knows, I am a negative person, so I always like to start the show on a negative point. So I have some bad news for you. On the show, I still have not found anyone else more interesting, so I will be talking to Dan again. So I'm very sorry about that. In this episode, actually, Dan started to tell a very boring story, which I had to cut out, because if I hadn't cut it out, no one would have listened to the show. That's our third conditional there. So let's start with some rock and roll grammar. If I hadn't cut it out, no one would have listened to the show. Anyway, in this show, we talk about lies, which obviously means when you don't tell the truth. So, enjoy. Hello, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
Great to talk to you, as always. My phone has just made a noise, which is very professional. Now I'll switch that off.
Who's messaged you?
Good point. Let me see.
10 quid says it's your mum.
You were close,
Ooh.
but it was my brother.
Okay.
Although it was a WhatsApp group that includes my mother. So
call
more
it a
or less
fiver.
you were
Call
there.
it a fiver.
Okay. What do you mean call it a fiver?
Well, you owe me a fiver because I bet you a tenner.
Okay. What is a fiver?
£5.
Very good. Correct answer, Dan.
Thank you.
So, in today's podcast, Dan, we're talking about lying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First question for you. Is it correct to say you say a lie or tell a lie?
You tell a lie.
You had to think about that, didn't you?
Well, I don't know what's grammatically correct. I just know what I say.
Okay, well, you were correct. So
Thank
that's
you.
two correct
Who
answers.
have you ever heard say, I say a lie?
No one, that's the point. It's for the listeners, Dan, that are learning English.
Well,
Okay?
learn.
Thank you. And another vocabulary question. Can you explain to us what a white lie is?
A lie that you tell so someone doesn't get hurt.
Oh, that is a fantastic definition.
I've
Did you
told
look at
many
that on Google?
white lies. No. Is that actually right?
Yeah, no, that's literally perfect. So give me an example of
Does that mean I've got 3 out of 3 so far?
3 out of 3. Yeah, very good. The out of is a very good term, actually. I've asked him 3 questions. He's got 3 right. That's
Thank you.
3 out of 3, baby.
Thank you. Yeah.
So the example of white lies, Dan. Give me some examples of white lies that you tell.
If someone is going out and looks like a piece of shit and says, how do I look? And you go, look great.
Yeah, that's... So when someone looks like a piece of shit, it's quite a strong way.
Okay, when someone looks not that good, when they
And by that, I imagine you're referring to a woman. Well, I only assume that.
no,
because I cannot imagine...
I would never call a woman, think a woman looks like a piece of shit. I think, or maybe I am talking about a woman, I don't know.
Tell me a time when a man has ever said to you before you go out.
I remember when I was 18 and you asked me, do I look good in this shirt? And you look like a piece of shit. And I said, no, you look great.
So he told me a white lie.
Yeah.
But the story he just told is a lie. Is not a white lie, because that did not happen. I have never asked him how I look before we go out. The most common white lie I tell, thanks for asking, Dan, is when I see messages, normally from people like you, and then I do not respond, and I say, sorry about that, I didn't see your message.
Yeah, you say that quite a lot, actually, I've noticed.
Well, now you know it's a white lie. Although the problem is WhatsApp has changed the game quite a lot here.
I can see when you've been last been online.
Exactly, and the blue ticks really fuck you up.
Yeah.
Because that is clear evidence that you have seen the message.
I'm watching you like a hawk. Okay.
That's actually a very good term. A hawk is actually a type of bird. But to say that we are watching somebody closely. Repeat, Dan. What do we say?
I'm watching you like a hawk.
Very good. Well, you watch me then, Dan. Okay, so we've established what white lies are. So let's move to bigger lies, normal lies.
A lie that I hate, and because I'm always on time, I'm very punctual, as are you.
So this is the part where Dan starts telling his extremely boring story. And because I didn't want you to fall asleep, I've decided to cut it out. But if you listen to the very end of the podcast, you can listen to me telling Dan, after we recorded the show, telling him that his story was very boring, which he is obviously very pleased about. Okay, so now we will pick up the conversation again when I am talking about, Italian people that are late. Okay, enjoy. In Italian, they have a phrase, when they're late, basically, they have a phrase which they just say, I'm arriving. So, again, like you, I generally arrive early or on time, and I'm waiting. I'll call the person and say, where are you? And then they say, I'm arriving. And I think, but that's not enough information. At what point of your arrival are you? Are you 5
I want your
minutes away?
location on Google Maps.
Exactly. I'm arriving. Well, good. But you could be walking from your house and it could take you another hour to arrive.
Well, you should say, what is your ETA?
Oh, ETA. Fantastic. What does that mean, Dan?
Estimated time of arrival.
Very good. Estimated time of arrival. Yeah, I don't think they would probably understand that. Speaking of lies, though, I mean, this could be classed as a white lie, but it's a quite funny story. A very good lie, I like to call it, that I told once. So I was on a plane with my mother, who we've already spoken about today. And we went, this was many years ago, went into the cockpit of the plane. What is the cockpit of the plane, Dan?
It's where they fly the plane.
Exactly, where the pilots are driving the plane. So before September the 11th, obviously, you could do this. And so we went in. There was me, my mum, and I was probably about, 14. And there was another child who was probably about 7. And I decided to do a fart. And remember, fart is the smell.
How did you come to that decision? How did you stood in the cockpit and think, I'm going to fart here? I can get away with this.
Sometimes I have a feeling that the fart is not going to smell. And I had that feeling, so I thought...
It's a risk, though, isn't it? It's a risk.
It was a risk, yeah. But then I think maybe something about the air pressure, I'm not sure. But the smell was... ferocious, incredible, and
intoxicating.
The pilots sort of turned around to look at us, and my mum looked at me. Well, she didn't say, but she said with her mouth, like miming, "Was that you?" And at this point, the child was looking at the pilot, so I was just pointing at him. So the pilot could see me pointing at him. My mother could see me pointing at him. So everyone thought that it was the kid that farted.
What about the kid's mother? Was she in there?
No, I don't know where she was, actually.
Maybe it was the pilot's son.
Oh, shit, that's... that's changed that story quite a lot, actually. So on an average day, Dan, how many lies do you think you tell?
Well, I don't talk to that many people, so it's hard to tell lies.
That's so sociable.
Yeah. It depends on the situation. If I have to lie, I lie.
If you have to.
If I have to lie at work, I have no issues lying at work.
What would you need to lie about at work? Hopefully your boss isn't listening to this. I don't think he...
I think they know I lie. I think we all lie. I think if someone at work, if something hasn't gone right for a customer, I often blame it on someone else. But anyone but me.
To blame it means to pass the responsibility to someone. Something Dan has always done. Never accepted responsibility for his actions. But, I'm not surprised by that.
What about you? Do you lie a lot during the day?
A couple of white lies. Like I said, just the typical... Or if someone calls me and I don't want to talk, I press the silent button, so it stops ringing, and then I just don't answer, and then maybe send a message just before I'm going to bed saying, "Oh, sorry, I've just seen your message now, so
you see,
I'll speak to you tomorrow."
I don't feel the need to do that. If I don't reply...
Because no one calls you. No one calls you.
If my mum texts me and I don't reply, all right? But if someone texts me and I don't reply, I don't explain it.
Well, that's the difference in our characters, Dan. Deep down, inside me, I'm an honest man with integrity.
I just don't need the validation of others.
Sure. On that note, anyway, Dan, I will thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully...
When are you going to start paying me for these? That's what I want to know.
We will talk about that another time.
Okay, another white lie. There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good. Okay, thanks a lot, Dan. We'll see you later.
Cheers. See you later.
So that was Dan and I talking about lies there. Some of the rock and roll vocabulary that came out was when Dan said a fiver, which is obviously a formal way to say £5 in England. The best one he probably did was when he said, "I'm watching you like a hawk." Remember, hawk is a type of bird, but it's a way to say I am watching everything you do very closely. Fart was another one. Remember, that's the smell that comes from your bum. Normally makes a noise like this. So that's a very pleasant one. Blame was another word that Dan used when he said, "I blame it on someone else if something goes wrong at work." Basically passing the responsibility to someone else, which is typical of Dan. So as I mentioned in the middle of the show, this is the part where I tell Dan about how boring his story was. Anyway, your story, you were going on way... In fact, I should have interrupted you and said you were just going on way too long. It wasn't even that good a story.
Cheers.
I mean, it was quite... It was... The
no, end, you don't have to say it now. It's fine.
The end part was quite good, but...
I can't remember what the story was.
That's exactly my point. So I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Dan is completely useless. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. Remember to tell your friends and like the show. You can also listen on your phone, remember. So remember to subscribe to the show. And I will see you on Thursday. Well, not see you, but another episode will be on Thursday, so you can hear me. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.